Hi everyone and welcome to episode 7 of the Virtual View podcast with me, Paul Collis. Today I'm joined by Javed from FIDE, which is an ethical recruitment company. Good afternoon, Javed.
Hi, good afternoon, Paul. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure. Like with all my guests, Javed, can you just give us a rundown of your career to date and what's brought you to this point in your career?
Yeah, sure. So my sort of background, I've worked as a finance recruiter for the bulk of my working life. So we're talking sort of over 18, 19 years now. I was in the corporate world up to a couple of years ago, or just over 2 years ago, and I ended up sort of leaving that sort of role, a very well remunerated and high profile position, but I had to do it because of my own mental health sort of reasons. Took a bit of time out to sort of figure out what I wanted to do next, and it quickly became apparent that there's two passions that I've had, and I love recruitment. I know it's a much maligned industry from an end user perspective, but I do really love recruitment. But I've also always been passionate about mental health and well-being, and I just wanted to bring my own personal experiences and come up with something that hadn't been done before, and hence the ethical sort of recruitment approach. So yeah, I started trialing out my new ethical recruitment model in November last year, picked up a handful of clients, and that sort of worked well up to the point of filling most of the positions. COVID hit, which sort of did put the buffer on a couple of elements of it because of the well-being part of what I offer wasn't able to be implemented. Yeah, fast forward a few months, they all got ironed out, and now in a position where sort of picked up more clients in the last sort of few months and ready to get on. So
Okay.
a very short whistle stop tour.
Yeah, fantastic. You're one of my first guests that actually works like in the mental health arena, to be honest, and it's a massive subject, and it does affect everyone. Trying to avoid cliches here, but it does affect everyone. Tell us a little bit more about what you do in terms of mental health.
Yeah, so I guess there's two components sort of to it. So my ethical recruitment model, if you look at that in isolation, so I combine recruitment with mental health and well-being. So if someone was come to me to look for a job, or if a company was looking to recruit, not only would I, fill the role or find a person a job, I then put a mental health and well-being budget aside for the individual and the company I recruit for on that particular team. So mental health and well-being is in the fabric of the actual recruitment model. What I also then do is, outside of that, I've set up a community interest company called F Mental Health, and I again fund that out of the revenues and profits on the recruitment side, and that's been set up to raise awareness for mental health and well-being, specifically for finance and accountants. And that's driven partly because it's a sector that I've served for a while, but also all the anecdotal evidence out there suggests that accountants and finance, whether like yourself, you work in a virtual portfolio capacity, or you're employed full or part-time, the pressures, demands and expectations and the knock-on effect on sort of anxiety, stress, burnout, presenteeism have been on the rise for several years. So I'm just trying to do my small part to try and bring that conversation forward for a sector that I feel that needs it most. So it's a combination of sort of putting on subsidised and free wellbeing events, having a mental health and wellbeing hub on my platform, which I'm developing further at the moment. Basically doing everything I can, have one-to-one conversations with CFOs, FDs, accountants at all levels, if they want individual support or if they're concerned about and want to do more for their team. Supporting job seekers that are out of work has been a big part of what I've done this year, because as you can imagine, that's tested a lot of people's mental resilience. I guess everything that I can do within my sort of realm of sort of, supporting the mental health and well-being of individuals and or companies that I work with, I guess. So
yeah, I mean, so your website is fide.careers, and
yeah,
I find it quite refreshing, to be honest, because it's quite different to a lot of other recruitment websites, traditional recruitment websites. And one feature that I do like is written by you for you. For the benefit of the viewers or listeners, can you just give us a bit of background about that particular feature of your website?
Yeah, sure. So I launched that around sort of probably just as lockdown number one started, so around April time. And the backdrop of it was that I was speaking to many sort of accountants, and the general consensus was that you're so focused on doing your job and doing it well, that whatever level you work at, there's very little moments to sort of reflect and share your sort of knowledge and stories and insights, whatever they may be. And there isn't the scope within your job as, working in finance. So it's been set up to provide a platform, a blog writing platform for finance professionals at all levels, or anyone linked to the world of finance. And yeah, basically to write a blog on any topic of your choosing. So since April, where I was hoping that there'd be maybe one a month as in terms of contribution, we've had actually over 30 blogs written so far. Everything from graduates to CFOs and FDs, across audit, tax and treasury as well, practice, industry, a really sort of rich and diverse range of topics that have been covered, from mental health and wellbeing, job search, resilience, Black Lives Matter, racism, just the whole spectrum. And whilst it's done great so far and a great foundation, I'm really looking to make that kick on next year. But if anyone's not read them, I'd highly recommend them. I mean, all the blogs are individually written, they're unaltered, unedited, and for 4 or 5 minutes for each blog, there's something for everyone on there so far. It's been great to give accountants that platform to write on anything that they want.
Definitely. And like you say, they're all different formats and different styles. And I think one thing a lot of people forget is when they think of an accountant, they might also have like a creative side to their personality as well, and a more inside, rather than just looking at numbers and analysing. And I think that shines through. And I think the personality of the writer really, really shines through as well. So definitely recommend people look up that feature on your website. In terms of your mental health offering, have you been doing more since, in terms of helping people since the pandemic hit, or is it something that has just carried on since you started it? What was it, about a year ago?
Yes, I guess for me, there's been a huge focus on me building up an element of trust amongst the wider community. I'm known as a finance recruiter, and everyone will know me as that. But you're trying to build sort of a trust and a persona of, look, yes, I'm a recruiter, but this is now another string to my bow, and one I'm really passionate about. So obviously, the few months in the build up to when lockdown began was just about that building of that trust, and that has carried on. I think what has happened as time's gone on this calendar year is just getting more and more people approaching me on the back of the work I've been doing and how I promote mental health on social media. So yeah, whether it's an individual or someone worried about someone else, or someone in a leadership position, working in finance, I'm having weekly conversations, specifically around mental health and wellbeing alone. And so if anyone did want to sort of contact me, what I've always said is there's not a condition on you wanting mental health and wellbeing support or insights and knowledge from me that you use me on the recruitment side. That's got nothing to do with it. And I've had many conversations with individuals. There's probably little chance of us working together for different reasons, but I'm so passionate about wanting to support the community around mental health and wellbeing that that's almost like a vocation of mine that I'm going to carry on doing for as long as I'm able to do so.
Brilliant. In terms of the recruitment market and the finance landscape, how have you seen it change over the last 6 months? And my gut feel is there will be a lot of interim type work coming into the new year as businesses are doing year end and all the usual annual reporting. How do you see it?
Yeah, I think there's probably 2 or 3 key trends that I see sort of have been emerging and things to look out for next year. I think definitely the rise and the need for interim work. I think as companies and decision makers are in a position where where possible, they won't want to add to their permanent headcount, unless it's really necessary for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
So therefore, the next logical step is, right, okay, well, let's look at interim resource that can then sort of come in and support. Because what you don't want to do is not have any resource at all, especially where it is critical, because that's going to then have a knock-on effect on your existing team. So I think that's definitely one trend to look out for. I think the other one, which I think will play out over a longer period of time, is I think a growing number of SMEs will probably move even more towards either virtual or subscription-based FDs and CFOs. And I feel that, for example, the space that you operate in and others, I've seen a lot of qualified accountants are moving away from the corporate world and setting up themselves as, and having portfolio careers. And I think that's going to rise in popularity. I think, again, you've got SMEs where they can't just go to their accountant because they're probably rushed off their feet or can't give them the level of support that a portfolio person could. And then that then flips to, okay, we don't add to a permanent headcount because of cost. Then the obvious solution is, from the portfolio community to step up and provide support to these SMEs in particular. So, yeah, that's what I think.
I mean, historically, portfolio careers have been for the very senior finance people, and in my mind, I can almost see another career emerging where less senior finance staff open up a portfolio type career. So your management accountants, finance manager type level staff. Do you see that or not really?
Yeah, no, I think I could see that. I think because it's in its infancy, that I think those the community that does set that up, I think they will need a really good sort of strong network of an FD CFO community of portfolio work. So what can happen is you'll know there'll be a point where actually you're too expensive for what a company needs, or there's the next stage of the evolution of that company where actually you can have someone now who can keep things ticking over. So I think there needs to be a lot of collaboration. I think that, if the portfolio for accountants and finance managers get set up, and I know there are a few around, that they work with the more sort of senior portfolio community of FDs and CFOs and maybe collaborate. But I think it's such an early stage. I think for an SME company, it'll be a leap of faith for them to go for an accountant over an FD CFO from a portfolio point of view, just to make sure that they're getting the right level of support, and then from there to then move down to something that they can maybe sustain on double the amount of time, days a week potentially than you would have come in. But yeah, I think it's probably an emerging one to watch, but ones where they'll need support from the likes of yourselves and other seasoned portfolio experts.
Yeah, okay. I mean, one big topic at the moment is the fact that there's hundreds of people applying for maybe one role at any one time. And over the years, I've had different advice about what should be on my CV and the things to highlight. Have you got a couple of tips for people about how they present their CV? I know there's not one right or wrong way to do it, but maybe a couple of tips.
Yeah, I guess the ones that stand out for me is if you're going through a recruiter, I think you work with the recruiter to make sure they understand the role well enough for you to then tailor your CV. Now, tailoring your CV doesn't mean a complete hack from one job to another. It's more around how can you bring the salient points of what that particular company is looking for and give them more attention and prominence in your CV. Right. So that, for example, if you have a list of 7 bullet points, that the first 3 or 4 are prioritized towards what they're looking for. So I think that's probably one of the main ones. I think the other element from a CV point of view is always have a distinction on each role between responsibilities and achievements and projects, so that it shows that you as someone who's looking for a job, that you're not just someone who does the job, but here's the value add things that you've done, and here where you've developed, improved things, made things better, had a tangible time, quality and or cost benefit. And I think without having that distinction, I see so many CVs that come through sometimes where it's just a list of duties. And if I read it and think, well, that doesn't really tell me more about you, then what's the hiring manager going to think? So
Yeah.
I think they're the main ones. I think with direct, it's hard. I think, or harder, because you're only going off the description that's been given on the website. So you just have to interpret that the best you can to then make sure, again, to tailor your CV. This is my view also as a fan one, is I personally wouldn't write cover letters. I feel that cover letters don't get read. And I think, especially with the volume of CVs that come through, they just go straight to the CV and understand what you've done.
Yeah. No, I think they're two brilliant tips, and that was something I always found a bit of a bit of a faff when you're talking about tailoring it to what the company's looking for. But if you have got that experience, you do need to highlight it and put it up there, like you say, and give yourself the best chance. And now more than ever, because the competition is just going to be huge, isn't it?
Yeah. If you don't, others will.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is around who wants it more. I mean, I had an example this week. Just so basically, two people being interviewed. One was through me, and one was through another recruiter. I knew who the other person was just because it's a small world. The other person had less experience, much less experience, and probably had one or two things going against them. But what they ended up doing was, they tailored their CV, but then also what they did is, on tailoring the CV, they got an interview, and then in the interview, even though they had much less experience, they showed certain things that the other person didn't. So it's that sense of how much do you really want the job that you've applied for, and therefore what effort are you prepared to put in order to achieve that.
Yeah, very, very handy tips, especially in these times. So Javed, as we bring it to a close, I've already mentioned your website, fide.careers, so that's FIDE.careers. What's the best way for people to contact you apart from through the website?
I guess apart from the website, I'm on LinkedIn, so you better sort of find my details, under my name, which will be easy enough. And then I'm across all the main social media channels as well. But I guess what I've tried to do, be that on the website or online, I've made it very easy and produced a number of different contact methods. So there's a chatbot on the website, there's my number, there's my email. So yeah, whoever wants to get in touch, and be that from a sort of a job seeker point of view, or recruitment, or more importantly, mental health and well-being, which, as I've said, is a passion, more than happy to help anyone where I can.
Yeah, fantastic. So thanks everyone. Thanks for watching or listening. You've been listening to the episode 7 of the Virtual View podcast. Until next time, goodbye.